This podcast is not for children. You can tell by that little opening number we just did. This is a podcast where 4 and sometimes 3 friends get together and we try to amaze each other with facts about the universe or how we found out facts about the universe enough that someone else in the podcast will say, "Holy fucking science!" And today I'm Hank Green, by the way. I'm joined by Ceri, Riley. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I've got my imaginary friend as our fourth person.
You got the empty couch. This is weird. I've never done it with 3 people.
I haven't either, so...
That's a weird sentence.
We just...
and...
Good.
Yeah, we had a last minute dropout, so it might be a slightly shorter podcast, or who knows? Maybe we'll just go for 3 hours.
Yeah, we'll have like many antics. Our stories are just going to be extra long. Lots of facts.
I mean, I am usually very unprepared. I'll be honest. For Holy Fucking Science, I feel like I walk in and everybody's got like a notebook of things that they figured out, and I'm like, I wrote down these 4 words about this Wikipedia article I read. But I went to 3 Wikipedia articles, and I will tell you the truth, a primary source.
That's good. Like a scientific paper?
No, better than that. A book called A Naturalist in Nicaragua, written in the 1800s.
That's very intense. I don't think I've gone that far, deep into research.
I read the whole book.
That was
cover
it.
To cover, everything in it.
Just ready.
It was actually, I find that like old naturalist stuff, like Darwin specifically, but a lot of old naturalists, they're very readable. Like they are nature writers. Like in addition to being scientists, they have adventures and they tell you about them, and like when they tell the stories of the things that they've discovered, it's like you're there, and it's like I'm all about it. And like we don't really have those adventures the same way anymore. So I really enjoyed reading 3 pages of this guy's book. And we've also got Olivia Gordon. Hello.
Howdy.
How you doing?
Excellent.
Do you know what we're going to talk about today? What our topic is?
Arthropods. I'm really excited.
I mean, arthropods, I feel like that's too nonspecific because I don't think crustaceans fit into bugs.
Okay. That's true.
Let's fight about
for
it.
The most part. It's kind of debatable whatever falls into bugs.
Yeah, I often will get people who like rag on me for calling something a bug, and I'm like, get away.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like once you get into crustaceans, it's not bugs anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, well...
But what about like a sand flea? Like they're crustaceans.
Yeah,
you know what a sand flea is?
Yeah, I do. And we would call that a bug.
I call that a bug.
So yeah, I typically, I think I've said this before, but my go-to is a terrestrial arthropod for bugs. And I get the same, kind of bullshit.
People are like...
pissing, and...
Spiders
are
bugs.
Pissed off, or they're like... There are true bugs, and you're like, yeah, no shit, there are true bugs. Thank you. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the general term bug.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so terrestrial arthropods today on Holy Fucking Science.
I guess so. No marine arthropods here.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I hope that I didn't step on anybody's topic.
No. I just had lobster facts. That was it.
I mean, we could totally do a whole episode on lobsters. They pee out their head.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, their urethra is like on their head. It's real weird.
Weird. Do they have a butt or like?
They do have a butt.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a separate butt.
So for solid wastes.
Yeah, but they pee out their head. They think because they use their urine to communicate with each other, and so they when they're like antennaing one another to find out if sexy time is a good idea, they like pee a bit.
Yeah, and then the pee is just like closer to everyone else's receptors instead of.
Yeah,
far away,
floating around in the ocean current,
wasting it by squirting it behind you.
But this is not my fact. This is just Ceri and I share like. There's also Ceri and I just sharing our things that we've learned in our perpetual years-long goal of eventually writing a book about animal sex.
Oh yeah, there's that. We'll have a record of it now. If we say them on the podcast, then we can go back and be like, yes, that was a fact I once knew.
This is the thing about all of this trivia is that it's really easy to have it in your brain for like an hour.
Yeah, and then it's gone forever.
Yeah, but that lobster peeing out the head thing has stuck with me.
That's good.
So we usually have a thing that determines the order in which we go. And today, that thing is going to be who was most recently bitten by a terrestrial arthropod. Do you remember? Like just not like necessarily like we don't have to be scientifically rigorous about this, but when's the last time you remember being bitten by bug?
Probably yesterday.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah?
I was outside and
It was the 4th yesterday.
It was the 4th, and we went outside at night, and there were mosquitoes, and I, for some reason, I'm a mosquito magnet. I know the science around being a mosquito magnet is wishy-washy, but they bite me so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many you got?
Probably like between 5 and 10.
Mosquito bites on you right now?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. How many you got, Olivia?
Well, I have the opposite. Mosquitoes really don't like me. I think I got bit by one, and it didn't leave a mark. So
okay.
That's so mine welt up. They're really gross.
I was at a picnic yesterday, but I have a secret weapon, which is an 8-month-old child who needs to go to bed at 6:30. So we were at home before the sun went down and did not get snacked upon. So mine was definitely not yesterday. So it sounds to me like Ceri's going to go first because you have, though both of you were bitten sometime yesterday.
The volume.
you have a volume advantage.
Okay. I don't know if it's an advantage. I think solid disadvantage.
You won this. You won this one.
But I'm itchy and have to go first. But my fact is good, so I don't mind going first.
Okay.
This is so gross, but I love it. Let's say you have a really nasty wound. So you're mangled by an animal, or you have an ulcer and it's an open wound and it's rotting.
An ulcer on the outside.
An ulcer on the outside, yes.
Not like a stomach ulcer.
Not like a stomach ulcer, but on the outside, on your soft tissue.
So we've got a wound that it's also it's infected.
It's infected now. It's rotting. There's necrosis.
I can smell it.
Yes, dying tissue. Everything's grayish, yellowish.
Oof. So that's just the general tip. If you can smell your wound, go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm. Pro tip for the podcasters. And it's not healing or closing.
Yeah.
What do you do?
What do I do? I go to the doctor.
You go to the doctor.
I just told you what I do.
So one thing.
But I can't get to the doctor? What do I do?
Let's say, so in the 1920s, they were having trouble, especially with a lot of these open wounds, and it's really expensive, and you couldn't necessarily treat them with surgery. But you could put something on it, insect-related, to heal it.
I mean, Olivia, you got to guess.
I mean, I think I know what it is.
You might know it.
Should I say it, though? I don't want to...
Yeah, you can say it.
Maggots?
It's maggots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a maggot therapy.
It's maggots. Yeah, it's called maggot debridement therapy. I guess it's not surprising then.
Step one, no.
Yeah.
Because I've read all about this because it's part of my job.
Yes.
Step one, tell me, I'm not entirely sure what a maggot is.
So a maggot is the larval, Olivia can correct me if I'm wrong now. So it's the larval stage of flies.
Is it, but can things that aren't flies have maggots? Because a grub, a big beetle grub, to me, it looks like a maggot, but it's not a maggot?
Technically, it's a grub.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So a grub and a maggot are different.
They are, yeah.
And a fly is specific to?
To a maggot.
Maggot is specific to a fly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, maggot debridement therapy. And debridement is the medical removal of dead or damaged infected tissue to improve healing. And I think it was started in the 1920s. Historically, military surgeons had documented, hey, these maggot-infested wounds have more positive healing results. And then in the 1920s, a surgeon at Johns Hopkins actually started experimenting. He was kind of
a little bit of science.
Yeah, he was a little bit of an unorthodox surgeon and started, there were kids that came in, I think, with either bone infections. So I guess it's not just soft tissue, but sometimes bone infections, or a lot of the time it was ulcers. And if you're diabetic and get ulcers, then it's harder for them to heal. You have poor blood circulation, and getting the right nutrients and immune system proteins that you need for healing is harder. And so they would just take some maggots and put them in the wound, and they would munch away at the dead tissue, but leave the live tissue intact. And it's really cool because, so not all species are safe. You can't just
throw any old maggot on?
Yeah, throw any old maggot on, because some of them eat live tissue and some of them eat dead tissue. And the way they eat it is they secrete digestive enzymes to liquefy their food. And for some reason, we don't know the science exactly, their digestive enzymes only liquefy necrotic tissue. And there are hypotheses that it's because the cells are already partially broken down. And so everything is already kind of goopy already. And so those digestive enzymes can turn everything into a soupy liquid that they can then suck up and eat. There are also 2 other advantages. So they found out like the main thing is being able to cut away the dead tissue and like leave an open, clean wound.
Because something like having the dead tissue there is like that stuff going to get eaten by other stuff, bacteria.
Yeah.
And bacteria are like, woo, this is great. But maggots just digest the whole thing. And
yeah.
I mean, you feel it though, right? Like you feel it, you got your wound and it hurts because it's like this ulcering wound on your body, and then they just like put a bunch of life on it and wrap it up and keep them there. Because you got to keep them there, right? Or they're just happy.
You have to keep them there. So there are 2 ways that I found to do it. It's like it's $80 to $100 to get your like vial of maggots.
I do this at home.
It's a prescription thing. I think doctors typically do it.
Can I go to the Safeway and be like, all right, I got my script for
maggots,
for bug larva, please?
I don't know. I think that'd be really great if you could.
Or can I just go to the pet store?
Yeah. Well, you need to request a specific species. It's I couldn't tell which is the actual correct genus name, but it's either Phaenicea sericata or Lucilia sericata. I think it's one of those where they reclassified it, and I'm not sure which is the most current genus.
It's the common green bottlefly.
Yeah.
I did not know that offhand. I looked it up just so that to be extremely clear about that.
You just have an encyclopedic knowledge of common names. It's like you put 5 to 10 larvae on 1 centimeter squared of skin for 48 to 72 hours, and you can either so you have like your ulcer hole. You can either dump them inside and like patch it up over the top, so you just kind of like trap them in there so they can like secrete and eat.
Wiggle around inside your wound.
Yes, wiggle around and feel them. Or the way that this treatment was described was to reduce discomfort for both the patient and the doctor, which I thought was funny. So like the doctor doesn't have to touch the maggots either. You can put them in basically like a tea bag, which has like a permeable polyurethane, or polyurethane's probably not the right thing, but like a plasticky, sterile.
Like pantyhose.
Yeah, basically. And you like stick that in the hole and then bandage it up because they can still secrete their digestive enzymes through the tea bag and then suck it back in through the tea bag. But then you have just like maggot packet that you strap to yourself.
Yeah, and it's like a what do they call those? A poultice.
A poultice?
You know what a poultice is?
I don't.
It's like in the old days when like you would have a wound and they would like put a bunch of herbs, like healing herbs inside of a bag, like wet, and then like slap it on you. Yeah. On your wound, and that would help your wound grow. Except instead of healing herbs, it's just a bunch of bug larvae.
Yeah, so you got that, and you can slap it on, and then
That's
they
good.
don't
And then like to get them out, you don't have to like tweeze one maggot at a time. You just pull your tea bag,
and they can't touch. they can't touch your nerves either as easily. So then you can probably don't hurt as much, or you don't feel them wiggling around as much because they're just kind of like stuck.
I don't feel like that's going to be as good though. Like I feel like get like you get a better maggot action if you let them go of their own free will around your wound.
So they can get all the little crevices of dead tissue.
I like that it's cheap. We do have a problem with expensive medical treatments in this country, and maybe try out stuff that's just like, well, it's $15.
Just try out some maggots, for some cheap healthcare.
I have a friend, this is unrelated, who had a botfly larva, I guess a maggot, planted in her. They lay their eggs inside of people's skin, and you don't know that it happened. And I was hanging out with her husband one day, and he was like, "You want to see the video?" And I was like, "No." And then he was like, "Yeah, you do." And you're like, "Fine, I do. You're right. I absolutely do." And I did. And oh my god,
did it just kind of
cool.
They pop?
She went to the doctor and had it removed. And it's interesting. Like I read this very good account from a person who had gone and gotten a botfly in them accidentally, and it had been really painful, and they got it removed. And then the second time, they're an entomologist, and so they're kind of into it. And the second time, it didn't hurt, and they were like, "Well, I know that there's botfly in me, but like I kind of want to just let the thing happen because it's not dangerous." Like they secrete all kinds of stuff to like make sure it doesn't get infected because they don't want it to get infected because there's a baby botfly in there. And went through the whole process, took several, when the larvae started to emerge, he took them out, he fed them and then had them go through their whole life cycle and then hatch as adults and took pictures of the botfly. And I was like, wow.
It's like, I read that same report.
Did you?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Guy's awesome. Yeah, and it's actually also a side note, kind of interesting. They're such big flies that they can't land and lay their eggs on an animal without the animal noticing. So they actually lay them onto mosquitoes. And then when the mosquitoes bite them, that's when the egg gets oviposited.
So you get a botfly larva from a mosquito bite.
Exactly.
The world is so weird. Oh my God.
That's so weird. I'm still wrapping my head around. He was just like, my children. And then raised them as his own.
Yeah.
Totally.
I birthed them from the bites were on his chest, and he was like, I birthed them from my chest.
From my heart. They're just
But my friend was on her head, and apparently it hurt pretty bad because the skin's pretty tight up there. And she had actually removed one herself, and then it kept hurting. It turned out there was more than one in there. And yeah, I mean, it was huge. It was so, it came out and you're like, oh, there it is. And then I was like, oh, that's big. And then it just keeps coming. It's like pulling a linguine. It wasn't. It's not like the shape of a linguine, but it's there was I was like, that's a big thing. And then I was like half of it. By the time the whole thing was out, I was just like, oh my. And then she sees it and she was like, did you get it? And she looks and she's like, ah! You just don't you have no idea how big this freaking thing's. Oh God. I never leave Montana. It's just everything's out there to lay eggs inside of you.
I think tapeworms are one of my biggest fears, just having, because those grow really, really big and your intestines are not short.
No.
And they're just, that would feel like a magician trick, but not fun because it's just infinite tapeworm coming out of your butt or mouth. I don't know which way they pull it out.
I think it's typically out of your butt.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny to me to think that maybe it comes out the other way sometimes because you say typically.
I mean, to my understanding, it's out of your butt, but I guess I don't know a whole lot about.
I feel like it'd be hard to get
can
through
come out the mouth.
Oh boy.
Do they survive the stomach acid? Do they have some protection?
I think they do.
To go up?
Doctors sedated a man and removed this 6-foot-long tapeworm from his mouth.
No.
But do they typically come out on their own that way, or are they just sedated it and pulled it out through its mouth?
No. Oh, okay. Yeah, they don't just pharyngeal jaw up through, but it is not your jaw. It is a tapeworm out of your mouth.
You open your mouth and you the food never even goes inside your body. It just goes straight into the worm. And you're like, why am I so hungry? I just ate 4 Big Macs.
But you don't see it really. You're just like, oh man, I'm choking on something a little bit. You cough it back down.
No, it's just like when you swallow half a noodle. Okay, well, this is the worst thing ever. Anything else about maggots?
Yeah, 2 fun facts about maggots. Maggots also, not magnets. I don't have any fun facts about magnets.
How do they work?
They're magic. I'm a biologist, not a physicist. Okay. So they normally put them in wounds just for the necrotic tissue removal. But in doing so, since clinical trials in the 90s, they've found out that there are 2 other benefits to them. One, something that they excrete or secrete. I think secretions are glands usually. Excretions are poop or other things.
Sure.
Kills microbes. So there's some sort of antibacterial, antimicrobial property to their secretions that is good enough, or that the bacteria don't build up resistance to it, or they don't seem to. But it can disrupt any biofilms that have formed and can just cleanse the wound in a way that we don't have to add serums or chemicals to it.
Yeah, it's always felt a little bit to me cleaning a wound is very hard to do. There's lots of, especially a necrotic wound, there's lots of surface area, there's lots of ins and outs, and there's something about a very small mouth almost to me that's well, it kind of makes sense that they would be good at that, because doing that with tweezers and our big clumsy fingers, of course a maggot's going to be better. They're tiny, they have tiny little mouth parts, and they can be careful in a way that we can't.
Yeah, and since our body is all like running on chemicals, we would always have to do like a physical removal of it and like identify with our eyes or something what is dead tissue and like surgically remove it. But since they're chemically dissolving it, there's already a filtration process on it. It's like
they don't have to know.
Yeah,
it just works.
Yeah, they don't have to think.
I'm on board.
They can just excrete. And then
you made a bit of a sour face, but now you look like you're on board.
No,
too.
I'm 100% on board. I like want a necrotic wound now, so I can put maggots in it.
Have some maggot pals. And then the other thing that they do is, and we also don't understand it. We don't understand maggots at all, apparently. Is hastened wound healing. So they stimulate growth of the tissue around the wound. And some people hypothesize that it's like some sort of mechanical stimulation. So like with all their little wiggling around, they can like get oxygen in there or something. And then your cells are like life and start propagating again. Other people think they have some sort of equivalent to growth hormones in there or whatever our like lymphocytes and other immune cells secrete, that they secrete some version of that encourages fibroblast growth and more extracellular matrix tissue to just start growing in around the edge. And that's
the future of Band-Aids. Like Band-Aids was a big deal when they first came out with their like adhesive strips with a little absorbent pad on them, and then like they added an antibacterial thing to it, and the next thing is just going to be like there's a tea bag of maggots in there.
You can go to like Walmart and get a 20-pack of like maggot tea bags.
Yeah, I mean, once it's at Walmart, it's going to get super cheap. It's already cheap, but I bet they could. They could twist the maggot supplier's arms.
Mass reduce.
All right,
that's it. That's our maggot story.
I once really at the beginning of like what was starting to set up like a business here, and I had hired Michael Gardner, and we were working on stuff, and I got really into the idea of having a maggot farm, not for like medical use, but for use in feedstocks. So the way that like fish farms work, like fish eat, like the fish that we eat for the most part eat fish. And that's a problem because like even if you have a fish farm, you're saying like, okay, we're not going out and catching salmon anymore, but you're still going out and catching sardines to feed to the salmon. So basically you're saying, well, we caught all the salmon. So now let's catch all of the things that like the salmon that are left are going to eat, and like there will be no sardines for even the wild salmon. And then you feed the like ground up sardine mash to your farm salmon. But like they like just as well to be fed other animal tissue. And like while humans don't, at least in the West, don't tend to be super into the idea of chewing up a bunch of crickets or bug larvae, fish are super into it. And so I was like, that's what I'm going to do. We're going to start up a black fly maggot farm, and we're going to get food scraps from all the local restaurants. And I was so into the idea. I spent a lot of time researching it and like figuring out how we're going to, would have been a stinky process.
Yeah.
But it turns out that it's like, surprise, like there's some ways to do it without like, you need some land and you need a lot of food scraps and you need to be okay with having bugs all inside your nose all the time, but I, in the end, decided instead to make an educational media company.
I thought you were gonna pitch like, let's build a sub basement in here, and start up a maggot farm. And just,
I definitely would not do that in this building. We've already got the hermit crab room that we're gonna set up for the hermit crabs. Olivia doesn't know about this.
No, but I'm very excited about it.
Are hermit crabs terrestrial arthropods?
Ooh.
Because there are crabs that, but I don't actually know the first life stage of a crab. Like, are they born crabs? They don't go through an instar or something?
Well, yeah, they go through multiple, but they don't have, they're more a gradual metamorphosis, at least,
They're not, it's not like a crab larva somewhere? Okay. Yeah, but I guess they all start out in the ocean. Like, are they born in the ocean?
Yeah. That's why they're really hard to like breed in captivity. They need that kind of tidal intertidal area.
There was Sam Schultz was on the show once, and he told us about how sad hermit crabs are and how like terrible people are at taking care of them and how they are social species and don't like to be alone, and like it's just like kind of inhumane to have one hermit crab.
Totally.
And it's kind of inhumane to have 3 because they live in groups of like 50 to 100, and I'm like, well, let's have 50 to 100 hermit crabs then.
Yeah. So is that why you are going to have a whole room?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Have you been in the
Totally
boiler
get
room?
it.
It's really creepy in there.
No.
We're gonna make it a tropical
Sounds
paradise for
warm.
hermit crabs.
Perfect.
Olivia,
Yeah.
what are you got some
Am I
got
up
some
next?
facts? Some factiz?
Yeah.
I saw the first word or the first 3 words on your notes.
So you
there,
probably know exactly what I'm going to talk about.
because I'm a big fan.
Me too. Some of my favorites. But yeah, I just wanted to debunk some bug myths. And there's so many to choose from. But I picked 3 like really common ones that I think everyone has probably heard of at least once. So the first, I'm sure you've all heard of, is that daddy longlegs or harvestmen are the most venomous spider in the world, but their fangs are too small to bite you.
They do have little fangs, and they can't bite you. So there is that truth.
They don't have little fangs.
What are those things?
Actually.
What are? I looked very
They're-
close. I've looked at a lot of daddy longlegs.
They
in my life.
look
I really like them.
similar. They're chelicera, which are the same body part that have evolved into fangs in spiders.
Okay.
But they've evolved almost more similar to a scorpion's. They've got like a chewing, crunching mouth part instead of a piercing fang. So although they're both arachnids, daddy longlegs are more closely related to a mite or a
So
pseudoscorpion.
daddy longlegs are arachnids.
They are. Mhm.
Okay. I mean, I just made a big deal about being a big fan of them, but apparently I don't know shit.
So let me try to inform
I do
you.
like whenever I have a daddy longlegs on me. That we got lots of them here. I'm just like, hello, buddy. I don't know. Like they're so fuzzy. I find them completely non-threatening.
No, they're well, they're not
Yeah.
threatening at all. So
But also lots of spiders aren't.
no.
And I'm like,
Most
I'm never like,
spiders
if there's one
aren't.
of those like cute jumping spiders on me, we have those here in Montana. I'm like, fuck you, get the hell off me and not out of my house. But a daddy longlegs, I'm like, get on my face.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. I mean, I love spiders too. I want them on my face as well. But yeah, daddy longlegs are really cool. I don't know. I always have really dirty like fingers and things, and if you put them on, they'll clean under your like cuticles and under your fingernails with their.
What are they crunching?
They're just eating. So they're basically detrivores. They're just eating decaying plant matter and animal matter and fecal matter, and they're on occasion opportunistic hunters, but for the most part, they just eat decaying matter.
Because if they were going to hunt something, it'd have to be pretty small and chew and like soft.
Exactly. Yeah, and real slow and harmless, you know.
Like an aphid, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they certainly can't like defend themselves against anything. So
I like that. I want to like raise daddy longlegs because like they're pretty big.
yeah.
So,
Well,
like,
the ones we see around here are, but there are like 6,500 described
Right, okay.
species.
I kind of want to see like the process of like going from an egg-sized daddy longleg. Do they just grow like any arthropod and
Yep, so
shed
they-
molts and
Yeah, so they grow like an arachnid and in a similar way as a crab with a like incomplete metamorphosis. So they'll essentially are born as like a little daddy longleg, and then they go through 6 instars to reach adulthood. And actually, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but some
Sorry.
no, it's fine.
There's only 3 of us.
Daddy longleg species have really amazing mating and rearing habits. So in some species, the males are completely in charge of rearing the young, and they'll create these really tidy little nests, and females will come and find the nicest one and then lay their egg, and the males will take care of 100 eggs through one season and clean them all every day and wait for them to rear. So yeah, they're fascinating animals that get a really bad rap because people think they're spiders.
Don't eat them because they're the most venomous of all creatures.
Exactly.
So sorry to keep asking
Oh,
questions
no
that
worries.
aren't necessarily related to your thing. So there's like arachnids, and in arachnids you've got spiders, you've got scorpions, you've got mites, and like harvestmen.
And then you've got
daddy longlegs are a whole
opiliones,
separate
which
thing.
are harvestmen. So they're in order just like a spider would be or a scorpion would be.
Right. So they're a whole separate thing,
Yep, exactly.
and more closely related to mites than to spiders.
Then to spiders, yeah. And
makes
that's
sense to me.
it really does, yeah. So both spiders and harvestmen have 2 tagma. They've got a cephalothorax, which is a combined like head and thorax and then an abdomen. But in spiders, they've got what's called a pedicel, which connects their cephalothorax and their abdomen, and it's a much narrower connection, which gives a spider the ability to move its abdomen in a lot more ways than something like a scorpion would. And that's simply because they have to be able to lay down silk. And so they need that abdominal mobility to be able to lay down silk. Whereas if you look at something like a harvestman, although there are those two tagma present, they're fused at a much broader area. And so it almost looks like they have just one body segment.
Right.
And that's because harvestmen don't produce silk. Silk production in arachnids is specific to spiders, as are fangs with venom. And so harvestmen don't have fangs with venom like we talked about. They have
So only
chewing.
of all the arachnids, only spiders have venomous fangs.
Yeah.
Or fangs at all.
Venomous fangs.
Because I guess these little crunchy things, these, what do you call them?
Chelicera.
Yeah.
And fangs in spiders are also chelicera. They're just
Okay.
they just evolved differently.
They're just the piercing kind instead of the...
Yeah, that has a venom gland present.
I'm looking at electron microscope scans of daddy longlegs right now, and I
Cool.
suggest somebody, if you are listening at home and you're in front of a computer, do that because they're dope.
So we've talked about, they don't have fangs. They eat decaying matter. They're not scary. But it's actually thought that maybe this myth originally referred to a species of true spider that we here in North America call long-legged cellar spiders, but in other parts of the world are referred to as daddy longlegs. And I don't know, you've probably seen them. Like I find them in my bathroom all the time, hanging up in webs and in the shower.
Right, yeah,
and
those
stuff.
guys.
Yeah, totally. You'd recognize them. They're everywhere. So these spiders, they're true spiders, so they do have fangs with venom, and they have what are called uncate fangs. And essentially that means that there's a secondary tooth where the fangs meet. So instead of just being able to pierce their prey, they can actually grab a hold of it to a certain extent. And this style of fang and the size is relatively similar to that of a brown recluse, which we know is capable of biting humans. So even the having fangs too small to bite is pretty unfounded.
But I don't want to get bit by one of those.
I mean,
No
one's
I
ever
don't want to get bit by any spider.
Okay. I mean, that's your call.
One of the surprising, just sort of a fact I ran across while looking at stuff about bugs, is that people don't die of spider bites very much. No one's died of a black widow bite in America in 10 years.
No.
And people are always all up on about Australia and deadly. Nobody's died of any spider bite in Australia in 30 years.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. I can't remember the source now, which I wish I could, but I read recently that only 7% of diagnosed spider bites in the US are actually confirmed spider bites. I think a lot of, skin ailments just get
called
spider bites. And yeah.
You might just have a boil.
Yeah, or MRSA or something,
Casual.
Boil or casual.
Yeah.
Regardless, don't blame a spider.
Okay, hit us with the last two facts, but a little faster.
All right.
I'll ask fewer questions. I love daddy longlegs.
All right, well, I'll just talk about this one, camel spiders. You all have heard about camel spiders. So this was a myth that was started during the Gulf War and was kind of perpetuated when we invaded Iraq. But basically, I'll go fast. The claim is that camel spiders have anesthetizing venom and are known to disembowel camels and humans while they sleep.
That doesn't sound likely.
Sounds like very intense for a very small thing.
Exactly. So
how big are they? Are they the size of a
So there
small
were a lot of
dog?
forced perspective photos that went around the internet, which makes them look like the size of a human torso. But they actually only get 5 to 6 inches long, as the biggest species you could possibly find.
That's a big spider.
And they're fucking creepy.
They are fucking creepy.
Yeah, so
that's
you
not
can
cool.
see why this would perpetuate.
That's some gore. I caught some gore.
But again, they're not true spiders, so they don't have fangs and they don't have venom, which means they don't have any anesthesia. They're their own arachnid, their own chelicerate. So they don't have any fangs, but they don't have fangs, but they can slice through flesh and remove hair from whatever they're trying to eat. So they've got these really strong, intensely huge chelicera, which are actually bigger than their prosoma, their cephalothorax.
So that by which you mean their fangs
Their fangs are bigger than their head.
Gotcha.
Is, what I mean by that. Okay, there are also claims that they can run 30 miles an hour, jump 3 feet in the air, and are roughly the size of a human torso. They have been recorded to run up to 10 miles an hour. They can't jump, and they are clearly not the size of a human torso. And another claim that they will chase after you screaming, which there's actually a lot of truth to this.
Oh, that's cool.
So solifugae is the order that camel spiders fall into, and it's Latin for one who flees from the sun. And so they're not chasing you, they're trying to stay in your shadow, which is oftentimes, I think, why they're found on the underside of camels and why this myth got perpetuated. And they're also able to produce a stridulation with their chelicera, which is basically just a vibration that produces a sound to...
Like a little cricket mouth?
Yeah, exactly.
Are there recordings of it that you can listen
Maybe
to?
I'll see if I can find one.
And then the last myth is humans swallow 8 spiders a year while they sleep. This is also total bullshit.
Yeah, I read that the average number of spiders that a human consumes while sleeping is very, very near 0.
It's roughly 0.
Approximately 0.
Not 0, because of course it does.
I mean, it's not impossible.
I woke up with a mouse on my face one time, and I didn't eat it, but I could imagine if it was a spider, maybe I would have accidentally. I woke up. I killed a roach on my face one time while I was asleep.
Yeah.
And that did not smell good.
Oh.
All right, everybody, listen close.
Just give her a bit of encouragement.
Give her a bit of encouragement.
No, that's definitely a threat. She is not hungry, but she is very angry. Okay then, guys.
That was it?
Oh,
Let's
that
try
was
and
it.
feed the smaller male one. No.
It's a very peaceful sound. That's not a scream. That's kind of cute.
Yeah, it's so I wouldn't say screaming. But this guy's got a pet camel spider. So his YouTube channel is called Tarantula Addict, if you'd like to check it out.
I'll look it up.
I mean, I really do like bug YouTube. There's lots of good bug YouTube that I was only introduced to a few weeks ago, and I've been really into it since then.
One of my favorite videos from Arachnid YouTube is, I think we put it in a list show. There's a spider that kind of tumbles through the desert. It looks like it looks like it's handspringing or something. And it is the funniest thing. It looks like stop motion animation. It looks so fake, and I love it because it's just
I remember that.
Oh man.
Yeah. All right, you guys. So it's my turn.
Yep.
Spiders. Let's keep talking about spiders. Actual spiders. They got fangs. They got webs. They got venom. What's all this for?
Catching prey.
Yeah. Because they eat animals.
Yeah.
That's what spiders do. That's 100% of what they evolved for. They came up from the arthropod ancestors as the predator of bugs. There are 35,000 species of described spider. 35,000 species we know of. There's one spider that is primarily herbivorous. And that is fucking weird.
Huh.
The spider is called Bagheera Kipling. Bagheera after the leopard in the Jungle Book, after Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book. So Bagheera Kipling. And it's a jumping spider like the ones that we have here. You're looking at me like you know this.
Continue.
I didn't know this, so I'm fascinated.
Okay. Do you have one?
Oh, I wish.
Okay. So this is weird. I will first say that lots of spiders are not solely carnivorous. They will eat things opportunistically. Interestingly, they will eat their own shed exoskeletons, which is actually nutrition.
Yeah,
They'll
makes
also
sense.
eat their silk, which is nutrition. Like they digest the proteins in their own silk. When it gets like degraded and it's not useful to them anymore, they'll eat it and then make more of their web, which I did not know, and that's very cool. There also have been studies that they observed spiders collecting pollen from their webs and eating that. And then to make sure that that was actually a nutritional source for them, they did some studies to find that indeed, if you like dust a spider's web with pollen, it does better than one that doesn't get dusted with pollen. So they like it's not just this one species of spider that eats some plant stuff or non-animal stuff, but there are other, like everybody does. But there's this one that's like they have observed and they've done studies, and there's actually this they can do an isotopic analysis like on anything. And it's like on me and versus like a vegan, you can tell how much meat is in that thing's diet, whether it's a person or a spider. And they've done that with this, and they can tell that it's a primarily herbivorous spider. And in observing it, about 90% of its diet is plant-based. Every once in a while, it'll grab like an ant larva, like just opportunistically. But this thing is an herbivorous spider, which is super strange.
Does it forage for
So
specific?
there is a very specific situation that this spider has going on.
Okay.
There is a tree. It's an acacia tree in Central America and some in Mexico. Some people say that Mexico is Central America, but you know what I mean. And it's when its leaves first come out, they're susceptible to being preyed upon by leafcutter ants and by just herbivores generally, whether that's a mammal or whether it's a bug. And in order to protect those early things, it has this mutualistic symbiotic relationship with a colony of ants. And it even like this tree even has like homes, like it builds homes for ants to live inside of. And when those first leaves unfurl, at the end of each leaf, there's a little bud called a Belchian body, or a Beltian body, named after Belt, who was a naturalist who wrote this book that I was talking about, Naturalist in Nicaragua. And that little bud thing contains a bunch of fats, a bunch of protein, a bunch of sugar, and it is just like this extremely energy dense, like feed the ants so that the ants will protect us. And they also have these little houses, like hollow thorns, basically, that the ants like make their home inside of, and they like have their queen in there, and they put their larvae in there, and then when somebody comes by to try and leaf cut this acacia tree, the ants will all go attack. But this one species of spider has figured out, and it doesn't take so many that the ants get pissed off, apparently. Like, it doesn't hurt the tree to eat these little bodies. Belt called them pearls. And set under a microscope, they look like little yellow pears. And it will eat them, and because they are like fatty, proteiny, sugary things, it's close enough to a spider's actual diet that they're like, well, it's basically an insect larva. And it's like, I can do that instead. And they figured out how to do that. So there's this one species of herbivorous spider in the world.
That's so cool.
Very cool.
They have this little home that they figured out.
They just take the little, that's such a specific food source too. It's like not even
they're
a major
taking
part
advantage
of
of a, pre-existing symbiotic relationship, which is really cool.
Yeah. Does that mean they're technically a parasitic relationship? Because the tree doesn't get anything from it. They just kind of like swoop in and
indeed, and the fact that sometimes these guys eat. Like they've been observed, because ants will sometimes move their larva from one place to another, and like while that's happening, they've observed the spiders grabbing the ant larva.
So they're like also squishy, fatty, nutrient dense.
Yeah, it's a very similar kind of thing. Yeah, little yellow pear. I was just fascinated that there is an herbivorous spider, you guys. It doesn't make any sense, but yeah, I mean, I guess if you find a way to make it work. I'm sure, though, that of the 35,000 species, there's probably another one.
Probably,
but just haven't looked hard enough.
Like if there's spiders that can subsist off of pollen, I'm sure there are some that intentionally do that at some point.
Yeah, totally.
I guess it just depends on where they live, and we probably haven't found them yet.
Yeah, and they've also observed these little guys sipping nectar from flowers.
I want a mutualistic relationship between a carnivorous plant and a spider. I think that would be very cool for some reason, like a pitcher plant or
just
something.
more-
There
yeah,
is
just
between
something
a
with-
pitcher plant and ants.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's a specific ant species. I'm pretty sure it's an ant and not a spider
Mm-hmm.
that is able to walk like in and around pitcher plants without falling in, and they'll eat the like things that have fallen in.
Mm-hmm. That's neat.
I have a mutualistic relationship with people who deliver pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
It's capitalism, man.
Let's just describe capitalism as mutualistic relationships in which I
That's the-
exchange goods
that's
for
the-
services.
That's the only way that it works. Yeah, I'm sure that it's never parasitic at all. Well, on that note, thanks, guys. I can't believe I didn't know that camel spiders were a thing.
Yeah, me neither.
What's their order? you know?
Sulfuge.
Sulfuge. I thought, like we were talking about daddy longlegs, that like, oh, there's this other arachnid, but apparently there's more than just spiders, mites. Because I was like, spiders, mites, scorpions. That's the arachnids.
No.
But there's a bunch more than that. Okay.
Oh yeah.
What do I know? Thank you for educating me.
Anytime. Thanks for educating me.
Yeah, absolutely. This episode, or I don't know what you call it, of Holy Fucking Science, brought to you by Big Sky Brewing, making available this Moose Drool Brown Ale that I've been drinking. Thank you. I've been drinking so many beers that are larger than 12 ounces that this now looks tiny in my hand, and I can't make that stop.
I feel like you just have to keep drinking this size to readjust
Yeah,
to the new
I
normal
guess.
because our bodies are so good at adjusting
true.
to a thing.
I just feel like a giant, like I'm holding this beer can. And sorry, everyone. I know.
Maybe you need very small cans, like even shorter than that, like
Yeah.
mini
And I was
Coke
looking back and be like,
cans.
this is a giant
Yeah.
can. Yeah, the sippables.
Mhm.
And our podcast was I don't know. I don't know who produced this. Caitlin. I don't know who's going to edit it. Somebody. Stefan's here. Hiroka's here. Thank you guys for helping out. I've been Hank Green.
I have been and still will be Ceri Riley.
And I'm Olivia Gordon.
And this has been
Holy fucking science.